Have you ever wondered why some people seem to grow stronger after every setback, while others remain trapped in the same patterns year after year? It's not because they're smarter. It's not because they're luckier. And it's certainly not because they were born different. The real difference lies in something most people never think about: the way their brain has been programmed. Every belief you hold, every habit you repeat, every decision you make is guided by neural pathways that have been built over time. The good news: those pathways are not permanent. Your brain is not fixed. It is constantly changing, adapting, and rewiring itself based on what you think, what you focus on, and what you do every single day. Success is not an event. Growth is not an accident. They are the result of intentionally training your mind to think differently, act differently, and see possibilities where others see limitations. Today, we're going to explore how to rewire your brain for success and growth. Because the moment you understand how your mind truly works is the moment you stop being a prisoner of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. Let's begin. The most important thing to understand about success and personal growth is that your brain is not fixed. Many people spend years believing they are trapped by their circumstances, their past mistakes, their weaknesses, or even their natural abilities. They convince themselves that they simply are who they are and that meaningful change is impossible. This belief becomes one of the biggest obstacles to growth because when you believe you cannot change, you stop trying to change. The truth is very different. Your brain is designed to change. It has been changing every day of your life since the moment you were born. Every experience you have ever had, every lesson you have learned, every challenge you have faced, and every habit you have repeated has shaped the structure of your brain. Scientists call this ability neuroplasticity, which means the brain can reorganize itself by creating and strengthening neural connections throughout life. Think about how a child learns to walk. At first, every movement is difficult. The child falls repeatedly and struggles to maintain balance. Yet with repetition, the brain begins to build stronger pathways that support walking. Eventually, something that once seemed impossible becomes automatic. The same process happens when you learn to drive a car, speak a language, play an instrument, or develop any new skill. Repetition strengthens the pathways that support those actions. What makes this idea so powerful is that it does not stop when childhood ends. Your brain continues to adapt and evolve throughout your entire life. No matter how old you are, you can create new habits, develop new skills, and change the way you think. The ability to grow is built into your biology. Unfortunately, many people allow negative experiences to shape their identity. Perhaps they failed at something important. Maybe they were told they were not talented enough, smart enough, or capable enough. Over time, these experiences become stories they tell themselves. They stop seeing these stories as temporary experiences and begin treating them as permanent truths. A person who fails a few times may start believing, "I am a failure." Someone who struggles with confidence may begin believing, "I am not a leader." Someone who faces rejection may decide, "I am not good enough." The problem is not the experience itself. The problem is the meaning attached to the experience. The brain pays attention to what you repeatedly think about. Every time you reinforce a negative belief, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that belief. Eventually, those thoughts become automatic. They feel natural, even when they are not true. This is why people often become trapped in patterns of self-doubt and limitation. The good news is that the same mechanism that creates limiting beliefs can also create empowering beliefs. Just as negative thinking can strengthen certain pathways, positive and constructive thinking can strengthen different pathways. Every time you challenge a limiting belief, every time you take action despite fear, and every time you choose growth over comfort, you are teaching your brain a new pattern. Imagine a path through a forest. If hundreds of people walk along the same route every day, the path becomes clear and easy to follow. But if people stop using that path and begin walking a different route, the old path gradually fades, while the new path becomes stronger. Your brain works in a similar way. The thoughts, behaviors, and habits you repeat most often become the strongest pathways. The pathways you stop using gradually weaken over time. This means that change is not about becoming a completely different person overnight. It is about consistently choosing a different path. Small actions repeated over time create powerful transformations. A single workout may not change your body, but hundreds of workouts will. A single positive thought may not transform your mindset, but repeated positive thinking can reshape how you see yourself and the world around you. Many people underestimate the power of consistency because they focus too much on immediate results. They want dramatic changes in a short period of time. When those changes do not happen instantly, they become discouraged. What they fail to recognize is that the brain changes gradually. Every positive action is like placing another brick in a foundation. The individual brick may seem insignificant, but over time those bricks create something strong and lasting. Growth begins the moment you stop identifying yourself by your current circumstances. Your current situation is not your final destination. Your current habits are not your permanent identity. Your current level of success is not the limit of your potential. The person you are today is simply the result of the patterns you have repeated up to this point. If patterns created your current reality, new patterns can create a different future. Every new skill you learn, every healthy habit you develop, every fear you confront, and every challenge you embrace sends a message to your brain that growth is possible. Over time, that message becomes stronger than the doubts that once held you back. The remarkable thing about human beings is that we are capable of adaptation. We can learn from failure, recover from setbacks, develop new strengths, and create new possibilities. History is filled with examples of individuals who transformed their lives not because they possessed extraordinary talent, but because they refused to believe their current limitations defined their future. They understood that growth is not determined by where you start. It is determined by your willingness to continue evolving. One of the greatest barriers between where you are and where you want to be is not a lack of talent, intelligence, opportunity, or resources. It is the collection of beliefs you carry about yourself. These beliefs shape the way you think, influence the decisions you make, and determine the actions you are willing to take. When those beliefs are empowering, they push you toward growth. When they are limiting, they quietly hold you back, often without you even realizing it. Limiting beliefs are assumptions that convince you that certain goals are beyond your reach. They are the invisible rules you create about what is possible and what is not. They often sound like simple thoughts. I'm not smart enough. I'm too old to start over. Success is for other people. I don't have what it takes. I've always been this way. The more often you repeat these thoughts, the more real they begin to feel. The danger of limiting beliefs is that they rarely announce themselves as beliefs. Instead, they disguise themselves as facts. They become so familiar that you stop questioning them. You assume they are accurate descriptions of reality when they are often nothing more than conclusions drawn from past experiences. Many of these beliefs are formed early in life. A child who struggles in school may begin to believe they are not intelligent. A young athlete who loses an important competition may conclude they are not talented. Someone who experiences rejection may start believing they are unworthy. Over time, these isolated events become part of a person's identity. The problem is that one experience does not define who you are. A mistake does not define your potential. A failure does not determine your future. Yet many people allow temporary setbacks to create permanent beliefs. Consider how often people use phrases such as, "I can't," or "I'm not the type of person who can do that." These statements may seem harmless, but they are powerful because they reinforce limitations. Every time you tell yourself that something is impossible, you become less likely to attempt it. When you avoid challenges, you miss opportunities to grow. When you miss opportunities to grow, your belief remains unchallenged. This creates a cycle that keeps people stuck in the same place year after year. Limiting beliefs often become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe you are incapable of success, you may hesitate to pursue opportunities. If you do pursue them, you may approach them with doubt and fear. When obstacles appear, you may give up more quickly because your belief has already convinced you that failure is inevitable. The outcome then appears to confirm the belief, even though the belief itself influenced the result. Breaking this cycle begins with awareness. You cannot change a belief you do not recognize. The first step is to pay attention to the thoughts that repeatedly appear in your mind. Listen carefully to your internal dialogue. Notice the excuses, doubts, and assumptions that arise whenever you think about pursuing a meaningful goal. Ask yourself where these beliefs came from. Did you develop them based on one negative experience? Did someone else place those ideas in your mind? Are they supported by evidence, or have they simply been repeated so often that they feel true? Many people discover that their limiting beliefs are built on weak foundations. They are not based on facts. They are based on interpretations. Two people can experience the same setback and reach completely different conclusions. One person may see failure as proof of inadequacy, while another sees it as a lesson and an opportunity to improve. The event is the same. The meaning attached to it is different. Once you identify a limiting belief, challenge it. Look for evidence that contradicts it. If you believe you are not capable of learning new skills, think about all the things you have already learned throughout your life. If you believe you are not confident, remember moments when you acted courageously despite uncertainty. If you believe success is beyond your reach, study people who started with fewer advantages and still achieved remarkable results. Your brain naturally focuses on information that supports existing beliefs. This is why challenging those beliefs requires conscious effort. You must actively search for evidence that expands your perspective. The more evidence you gather, the weaker the limiting belief becomes. Replacing a limiting belief does not mean repeating empty affirmations that you do not genuinely believe. Real transformation comes from creating beliefs that are both empowering and believable. Instead of saying, "I am guaranteed to succeed," you might tell yourself, "I am capable of learning, improving, and growing." Instead of saying, "I have no weaknesses," you might say, "My weaknesses do not determine my future." Action plays a critical role in this process. New beliefs become stronger when they are supported by new experiences. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, you create evidence that challenges your old assumptions. Every time you attempt something difficult, you weaken the belief that you are incapable. Every time you persist through discomfort, you prove to yourself that growth is possible. Small victories matter more than most people realize. Confidence is not built by thinking differently alone. It is built by doing things that demonstrate your ability to overcome challenges. Each achievement, no matter how small, becomes another piece of evidence supporting a more empowering identity. The people who achieve extraordinary growth are not necessarily those with the fewest doubts. They are often the people who refuse to let those doubts control their actions. They understand that beliefs are not fixed truths. They are mental frameworks that can be questioned, challenged, and replaced. When you stop allowing old stories to define your future, new possibilities begin to emerge. Goals that once seemed impossible start to feel achievable. Obstacles become opportunities to learn rather than reasons to quit. Challenges become invitations to grow rather than threats to avoid. The limits that once appeared permanent begin to dissolve as you realize they were never walls at all, but beliefs waiting to be challenged. Success is often portrayed as the result of major breakthroughs, extraordinary talent, or life-changing opportunities. People look at highly successful individuals and assume there must have been one defining moment that transformed everything. They imagine a dramatic event that instantly changed the course of a person's life. What they rarely see are the countless small actions repeated consistently over time. Behind every remarkable achievement is a collection of habits that gradually shape the person's mindset, behavior, and results. Habits are powerful because they operate automatically. They influence what you do each day without requiring constant decision-making. Every habit, whether positive or negative, acts like a vote for the person you are becoming. The actions you repeat consistently create patterns, and those patterns eventually shape your identity. Most people underestimate the impact of daily habits because the results are often invisible in the beginning. Reading 10 pages of a book may not seem significant. Exercising for 30 minutes may not produce immediate physical transformation. Practicing a skill for a short period each day may not make you an expert overnight. Because the changes are small, people often dismiss them as unimportant. The reality is that success is rarely the result of one massive action. It is usually the result of hundreds or thousands of small actions performed consistently. Small habits accumulate over time. They compound just like money in an investment account. The effects may appear insignificant on a daily basis, but over months and years they create extraordinary outcomes. Imagine two individuals starting from the same point. One chooses to improve by just 1% each day through better habits, while the other remains unchanged. At first, there is almost no visible difference between them. Weeks pass, and the gap remains small. Months pass, and the difference begins to grow. Years later, their lives may look completely different, because one person consistently invested in growth while the other stayed the same. This is why mastering daily habits is one of the most effective ways to rewire your brain for success and growth. Every repeated action strengthens neural pathways in the brain. The more often you perform a behavior, the more natural and automatic it becomes. Eventually, what once required effort becomes part of who you are. The challenge is that habits work in both directions. Positive habits move you closer to your goals, while negative habits quietly pull you away from them. Just as small positive actions can transform your life, small negative actions can gradually create unwanted outcomes. Skipping one workout may seem harmless. Procrastinating on an important task may not feel significant. Wasting an hour each day on distractions may appear insignificant. Yet, repeated consistently, these behaviors create patterns that shape your future. Many people focus heavily on goals, but pay very little attention to habits. They become obsessed with outcomes while ignoring the systems that produce those outcomes. A goal provides direction, but habits determine progress. Wanting success is not enough. Wanting growth is not enough. The daily actions you repeat are what ultimately determine where you end up. Consider someone who wants to become physically fit. Their goal might be to lose weight or build strength. While the goal provides motivation, the real transformation comes from daily habits such as exercising regularly, eating nutritious foods, and maintaining consistency. Without those habits, the goal remains a wish rather than a reality. The same principle applies to every area of life. A person who wants financial success must develop habits related to discipline, learning, and responsible decision making. A person who wants stronger relationships must build habits of communication, empathy, and trust. A person who wants personal growth must create habits that support learning, self-reflection, and continuous improvement. One reason people struggle with habits is that they often try to change everything at once. They become inspired and attempt a complete life transformation overnight. They create ambitious plans filled with unrealistic expectations. For a few days, motivation carries them forward. Then reality sets in. The plan becomes difficult to maintain, and they eventually return to old patterns. Sustainable growth rarely happens through radical changes. It happens through small, manageable improvements that can be maintained over time. The most effective habits are often simple enough to repeat consistently. Reading for 10 minutes every day may not sound impressive, but it is far more powerful than reading for 3 hours once and then quitting for a month. Consistency matters more than intensity. Many people wait until they feel motivated before taking action. The problem is that motivation is unreliable. Some days you will feel inspired, and other days you will not. If your progress depends entirely on motivation, your results will always be inconsistent. Successful individuals understand that habits reduce dependence on motivation. They create routines that support progress regardless of how they feel. They learn to take action even when enthusiasm is low because they know that consistency produces results. Environment also plays a major role in habit formation. People often assume success is purely about willpower, but willpower is limited. Your surroundings influence your behavior more than you may realize. If distractions are constantly within reach, staying focused becomes difficult. If unhealthy choices are always available, maintaining discipline becomes harder. Creating an environment that supports positive habits can dramatically increase your chances of success. Small adjustments can make desired behaviors easier and unwanted behaviors more difficult. When good habits become convenient and bad habits become inconvenient, consistent action becomes much easier. Every habit you repeat sends a message to your brain about who you are. When you exercise regularly, you reinforce the identity of someone who values health. When you study consistently, you reinforce the identity of a learner. When you honor your commitments, you reinforce the identity of a disciplined person. Over time, these actions shape not only your results, but also your self-image. The most powerful transformation occurs when habits become part of your identity. Instead of focusing only on what you want to achieve, you begin focusing on who you want to become. Each positive action becomes evidence supporting that identity.